Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 6-game NFL slate for the wild card weekend. This features 6 games Saturday through Monday, so to keep that in mind. We also have two weather situations, with the Steelers-Bills game being pretty snowy, potentially, and the Eagles-Bucks game being rainy. With that said, the other games are three of those games are in dome stadiums, and the Dolphins-Chiefs games is outside, but should be fine. With that said, that does affect fantasy perspective to some degree, but I do think we have some really solid plays throughout the slate. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to start with our quarterbacks here. My favorite play is Dak Prescott. He's the safest option on the team. He definitely carries some potential this weekend against Green Bay tomorrow, for that matter. He has some really nice potential in this game, and this is a great matchup. And it's also one of the safer matchups on the slate. I really like his upside in this game, and he has a lot of potential to have a massive game here. But we're going to look at the two value plays here, one being Joe Flacco. Now, Flacco has been absolutely phenomenal this season as the quarterback for Cleveland, and if you feel like he can continue that in the playoffs, then you should roll him out, as he's had at least 2 touchdowns in all the games he's played this season. I expect him to have a solid game here against Houston, who's actually the team he did the best against, where he scored almost 30 fantasy points. He's just too cheap for that. Though, he definitely does carry some risk, as it is the playoffs now, but I think he's a great option on the slate. And then another option is Jared Goff. He's a little bit higher risk than Flacco, but he does have some good upside here, and he has had some really solid games lately. He's a little bit boomer bust, but he definitely has a good matchup here, so he's definitely worth a look. I also like Jalen Hurts some, but he definitely is a contrarian option off of Prescott, so to keep that in mind. Looking at our running backs here, we're going to start with Kyren Williams. He's absolutely been phenomenal throughout the season. He's a great option on the slate. He's got really good potential, though his price is fairly high. It's actually cheaper than I expected, but it is a tougher matchup against the Lions. But I expect this game to be back and forth, and I have him as a good play despite the tough matchup from that potential. Looking at Rashid White for Tampa Bay, he's been pretty consistent recently, which really gives him some potential. He's been good most of the year. He's got less carries the last couple of games, but he has good potential in this game. If you think that Tampa Bay can stay in it, then he's going to be somebody that has to do well. Hopefully he can get some catches through the air, which he is definitely capable of, so that would definitely give him some upside in this game, though he's not the must play by any stretch of imagination. Looking at Isaiah Pacheco, he has played very well near the end of the year, and he has some really good potential in this game, assuming he stays the lead guy, which he should. He's been really solid this season in stretches, and this is a great matchup for him against Miami, who he didn't do well the first time he played them, but they haven't been great. As good, at least the last few weeks, against the run. So I think he's going to have a good opportunity to have a big game, and he's been a bigger focus point of the offense as they're trying to be a little bit more dynamic. I also like Tony Pollard the for Dallas, as he has played very well in stretches throughout the season. He's been a little bit inconsistent because he doesn't get quite as many carries as you'd hope from a lead back, but he definitely has the opportunities to get catches and stuff like that too, and score touchdowns, and they're going to need him to do that here in this game, and I expect him to have the best matchup of the running backs against when it comes to matchup perspective, so he's a great option on the slate. Looking at our wide receivers here, we're going to look at CeeDee Lamb first. Now, if you go with Dak Prescott, then just load up Lamb, as he's been absolutely phenomenal lately. He definitely does carry some risk, being his price is so high, but he's been having some monster games throughout the season. I expect that to be continued here, and especially in a good matchup here against Green Bay. I think he's a great option on the slate. Let's see. Tyreek Hill is in play today, though he's not as safe as Lamb or Emmanuel St. Brown, but he's definitely capable, so he is a contrarian play off of those two guys. As such, St. Brown is a great option off of Lamb, who's a little bit cheaper. He's got to have a lot of potential in this game. I expect Goff to go to him a lot and him to have a lot of potential. He's a little bit safer than Lamb and Hill as well, so that definitely gives him some potential in this game. Looking at a couple of value plays in the wide receiving room, we're going to look at Cooper for Cleveland. He's played well in stretches throughout the season. He's going to be a go-to for Flacco in this game. I expect him to have a lot of opportunity and a lot of targets. The question is if he can get the yards and touchdowns that are needed to pay off here. But he's been good this season against Houston. In the last game, in fact, in Week 16, he had an absolutely monster game against them. They've been pretty pathetic against the wide receivers, so I expect him to have a really good opportunity here. Looking at some other guys that are cheap that have some potential, a Shaker for Buffalo. He's kind of boom or bust in this particular situation, but when he's had the opportunity, um, he's had some opportunities and he's been good. Now it looks like Davis will be out for them, and he should be the number 2 wide receiver. And if that's the case, then he has some potential today. Though there is a weather concern there, so to keep that in mind. Looking at Puka for the Rams, he's drawing a really good opportunity here against a weak pass defense, and he's been a lot safer as a lot of people are double teaming um, their head wide receiver, and he's going to have a lot of potential. Sorry, my brain just broke there. But I do think he's going to have a lot of upside in this matchup, and he's a great option here for the Rams as he's a little bit safer than their other options like Cooper Kupp, who is their lead guy, but he gets all the defensive looks. Looking at Brandon Cooks for Dallas, he also has some unique upside in this matchup. He's been really good the last few weeks, and I look for him to continue to get some more looks as a result of the situation here. Dak is going to go to him, and they're going to need a good wide receiving core for this game. I expect them to do well, though, as Green Bay's pass defense has been okay, but I don't expect them to do particularly well in this game. I think Dallas is going to dominate this game, and they're definitely a stackable team from that perspective. Looking at our tight ends, this is where it gets a little crazy. We actually don't have a bad tight end room for this slate, and Travis Kelce's price has dropped considerably as a result of his lackluster play. Not sure that I'm going to trust him on this one, especially against Miami defense, which is not good, but he hasn't been good lately. Though maybe he'll get going back in the playoffs now, but he hasn't really caught the ball that well, and he hadn't scored a touchdown in quite a while since week 11. So I do think he is carrying some risk, though his price being lower definitely helps. I really like David Njoku better for the for the Browns. He's played very well lately, and Flacco seems to really like him. He's got a lot of touchdown potential in this game. And against Houston, he also scored a touchdown last time he played them, so I like his potential there. Houston's pass defense against tight ends also is not great, so he's in a great spot, and he really gives a lot of upside here. A guy, if you want to go, cheap, you can go with Jake Ferguson for the Dallas Cowboys. I expect Dak to go to him a little bit more in this game. I like his potential here, and he has some nice upside as a result. But there's actually a lot of good tight ends, decent ones like Goddard and Schultz and Kincaid all have some utility on the slate. And depending on who starts for Detroit, might have some potential as well. And then finally, we're going to look at our defense, and we have one defense to choose from, and that is the Buffalo Bills defense. They're playing Pittsburgh, who is rated as the lowest scoring team on the slate by quite a bit. The Bills have had a pretty decent defense throughout the season. They're averaging 9.4 fantasy points per game. This game also has some weather concerns, so that might with snow, so this could potentially come into play, and there could be more fumble opportunities for them. I expect the scoring in this game to be rather low comparatively, and so they definitely draw some potential as a great defense for the slate, and so much so that I think they're at core play at defense, which I don't know that I've ever had a core play at defense. If I wanted to go with a secondary option, it would be the Cowboys, but they definitely carry some risk. And then the Browns against Houston. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.